Yeah. Awesome. Finally, now I'll ask people. Now people can join. Perfect. People are joined. Okay, great. Awesome. So I can see attendees jumping in. Thank you so much for waiting so patiently. We had some technical issues, so we were able to not start the webinar earlier. But yeah, we're all here, and I think we'll wait for probably 1 more minute for everyone to join, and kind of I can see more people joining in, and then we'll start. Awesome. We'll start. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. The objective of today's panel discussion is to discuss one of the cool new things on the employee engagement block, which is around a flexible salary or an earned wage access for higher employee engagement and retention. The construct will be that we'll have around about 30 minutes as a discussion, and we'll try to leave like 10-15 minutes in the last for questions. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those questions in the chat box. There is a Q&A section. There is also a chat box section, so you can just put your questions there, and then we'll also try to cover them if we can during the panel, or we'll cover it at the end of the panel. So to start with, before I introduce the panelists, let me introduce myself. My name is Smriti. I'm one of the founders of Advantage Club. And Advantage Club is essentially an end-to-end employee engagement and financial wellness platform. And we have various initiatives through which we help organizations engage with their employees better. On the engagement side, we have rewards and recognition, employee perks as options. And on the overall general wellness side, we have overall wellness, employee engagement, things like financial wellness, early wage access, tax saving modules, and many more. So one of the things which, as a founder, which I see when I'm talking to a lot of companies, a lot of HR leads, heads, etc., is they constantly struggle how to bring a lot of productivity or emotional stability or financial stability among employees. While of course a lot of companies are striving this through rewards and different sorts of recognition programs, there is also a general drive now post the pandemic to ensure that people are overall financially independent. So that's why I have two wonderful panelists today with me. I have Mr. Aditya Prakash and Mr. Ajay Singh. So typically, before I jump on to them introducing themselves, let me give you a quick overview. We've decided to divide the panel by taking one perspective from the large enterprise thought process itself, and one perspective from the middle and small enterprise thought process itself. So Mr. Aditya Prakash is the CEO at Esotec Group, which is one of the large real estate builders today. And Mr. Ajay Singh is the CEO and People Services Head of Quest Corp, which is one of the largest employers in the country and one of the biggest companies in terms of employee strength you can think of. So I'm gonna start the way I can view them. So I can see Ajay first. So I'm gonna move in that direction. So without further ado, would request Mr. Ajay to just give a quick intro about himself, the company, and overall the landscape of Quest Corp.
Definitely. Hi, Smriti. Thank you so much for having me here, and welcome everybody. I hope you have a fantastic learning session today. And I'm also hoping to learn something from the group here. Just quick, introduction on me. I am the CEO of People Services business in Quest Corp. This is one of the recent, business lines that Quest initiated. Overall, in the last 15 years of my professional journey, I have helped startups to grow and become, the category leader in their space. I have also worked with mid-sized, large corporations in their P&L and strategy functions. I strongly believe in the startup and the innovation ecosystem which is developing in India, and and Advantage Club is a great example of that. I like to contribute to that ecosystem in whatever way I can through mentoring or through advising the startups. Just quick, introduction on Quest Corp. As Smriti, you mentioned rightly, Quest Corp is India's largest private employer. We are a listed company. Our revenue is over $1 billion. We are primarily, if you look at our business, we are primarily a workforce management company and a business process outsourcing company. So we have used, our manpower as well as our technological prowess to help large companies and mid-sized companies manage their operations. Generally, we have three broad verticals in which we are distributed, but we have an overall workforce of around 4 lakh employees who are present in every part of every pin code of the country. They are working in for various clients of ours across various industries, all the way from retail, hospitality, healthcare, and whatnot. And yeah, I mean that's how we are structured, and very happy again to be on this call today.
Thank you so much, Ajay, and we're also, equally excited to have you here. Moving on to the other panelists, Aditya, would love to hear your introduction, a little bit about Esotec Group. Would be really great to hear about that.
Sure. So hi, Smriti. So I'm Aditya Prakash. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Esotec Group. And I don't have that much experience like Ajay's, but I'm still 4 years almost into this business. And a brief description about Esotec, I'll add a few points. So we currently have 250 employees on our payroll and approximately 2,000 daily wage workers under our belt. We do have presence in 7 different states of India and are currently active in 3 major states like NCR, Odisha, and Jharkhand. Esotec is primarily into real estate development, commercial as well as residential. And we have just ventured into property management as well as hospitality. So this is something new for us. And I'll just add a few pointers about my industry as well. So in my industry, there are mostly blue collar employees who typically run from paycheck to paycheck. And this entire industry was usually run by cash, back 20 years ago, but it was slowly turning into digital payments. But this progress was slow, and I would say pandemic gave us the right nudge that we needed to, I would say, hurry this process.
Yeah, that is really interesting to know. And yeah, like you rightly said, real estate has actually gone through a big switch from giving cash to moving to like a digital salary structure, which probably is like given in most industries, but this is like a very different thing altogether. Great. So, moving on to Ajay, I'd love to understand, overall, why do you think is employee wellness in terms of especially financial wellness important according to you? And do you think that the onset of COVID has changed the belief around financial stability for employers as well, not just for employees? And lastly, how does Quest as an organization and your thesis fit into that particular picture?
Great, Smriti. I think I'll just start from the Quest point of view because with being India's largest private employer, I think workforce definitely is our biggest strength, right? That is our day in and day out business, right? So while we have 4 lakh of our workforce, which is on ground at the front line in various industries in various parts of India, we also have a huge business in which we process the payroll of 1 million employees every month, right? So given all of that, I think employee benefits and employee engagement is, I would say, it's a key pillar, to our operations. And in that, financial inclusion and financial awareness, right? That has been almost our key priority since the beginning. But pandemic has really, shaken us up as well and made sure that, we look much more closely into that, right? Right. Our employees, if you look at in general, and this is, what Aditya was also saying, right? Very similar to construction, right? Generally, we also employ a large workforce of blue collar, gray collar workforce, right? And most of the people are coming from rural or semi-urban areas, right? And they are moving to tier one, tier two, three cities for the first time, and they are graduates, right? They're graduates. Most of them are graduates, right? But I think from their family background, maybe the financial, awareness has not been, financial education has not been very strong, right? So the first time that they are working with an organized sector, with a company like us, they are making, their salary, but they need to understand, how to save money, how to spend money, how to take credit and things like that. And, as we have seen in last, few years, the entire the financial stack of India, right, including whether you talk about UPI or you talk about Aadhaar stack, the entire progress which is happening now towards video KYC, AKYC, RuPay system which is coming in place. This has changed the landscape, right? So today a company has no choice not to be digital and using these stacks, right? And that's what we have realized as well, that we know very well the traditional banking system of India, right? I mean, it has tried to reach wherever it is, but still, hundred and millions of people don't have banking access right now. So I think from Quest point of view, and how COVID has shaped us, I think employee benefits, employee engagement is a clear key pillar for us. And in that, financial inclusion, financial awareness has become very, very important for us. Anecdotally, we used to see, and I'm sure that we are not the only one. People will come and ask us for salary advances for some small amount of money, right? And now, because of the entire innovation, from fintech segment in India, and including company like yours, there are solutions which companies can recommend to their employees today, right?
Very true, very true. And I think it also kind of adds to the fact that irrespective of what size of an organization you are, it, and whatever industry you are in, this problem is like a generic problem, right? So even from a larger organization perspective, I think employees were struggling during this point of time. So it didn't matter whether you were working for a very large named company or whether you were working for a mid-sized company. It was the same problem everyone was facing at the same time. Yeah. So to add on to that, Aditya, would love to hear the same thing from like a small medium enterprise perspective, SME perspective. What happened during the pandemic, and how did that whole financial inclusivity as a concept evolve during this time?
So your original question was, why is employee financial wellness important to me? So that is a loaded question, but here's my take. So there's this weird scientific phenomena. It's called the Pareto distribution, all right? So it was named after this Italian sociologist, I would say, his name was Vilfredo Pareto. So the law states that, and I'm paraphrasing here, the square root of total number of employees working in your firm produces half the total output. So I'll give you a quick example here. So suppose there are 100 people working in your company. So 10 of them do half the work. Suppose there are 10,000 people working in your company. 100 of them do half the work. So now you can ask, why is that? Well, it's due to a number of factors, and financial wellness is one of them, I would like to add. And the real question isn't why employee financial wellness is important to me. I would say, as an entrepreneur, the real question is, why is employee productivity important to me? And that's just from the employer's perspective. From the employee's perspective, by investing in their financial wellness, it adds to the betterment of the financial stability, as well as longevity of their careers in a particular organizations. They'll stay longer if they're financially stable, and if you add post-pandemic lens on top of that, the entire thing, so situation went from bad to worse. Most investments held by employees went down the gutter. Savings vanished into thin air due to unexpected medical advances, and bills don't pay themselves. That's the reality. There were immediate deductions from the payroll, which wasn't mentioned earlier, and employees took huge hits in their salaries. It was like demonetization all over again. People had gone back 5-6 years behind financially. And we weren't any different as a company. Esotec initially decided to do the same reductions, where this was like a trend going on back in 2020. And employee productivity, oh man, it went down. It crashed in just 2 months. So eventually, yeah, we did remove the deductions and even gave out bonuses on Diwali to boost morale. But the core issue, the core issue of financial liquidity to maintain their respective lifestyles was not resolved, I would say. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, very true, very true. And again, you pointed out a very important thing that, you can give as many bonuses as you want on Diwali, but if people don't have money to pay their rent, it's not going to solve any purpose, right? So yeah, eventually you need to look at an overall financial inclusivity for employees as well. So great. So moving on to Ajay again. So Quest has actually been one of the pioneers in India to provide early wage access as a solution to their employees, especially among the large companies today. Are there any specific numbers or data or surveys done in house which help you realize the need for this? Because especially when you have like a very large organization, uh, a lot of times like feedback is taken with a pinch of salt because a lot of people say a lot of things. What made you realize that this is something which is really, really important in the organization?
Yeah, great question, Smriti. And I think what Aditya was saying, COVID, took everybody from a way for a great surprise, and we were quite lucky in that way that we had the entire BCP plan with us, and we are very well structured in that way. But yeah, I think so. The way that we listen to our workforce, I think for last few years, for 4 5 years, we have been completely relying on technology. We have invested a huge amount of money into that. So we have a workforce management app which is used to manage our entire workforce. So consider the entire universe of Quest, and everybody is on that one single app, right? And that's where people get onboarded. That's where people offer letter is released, and their day-to-day work is managed, right? Now in this workforce management app, we have something called as one of the module, which is an employee engagement module, and that is something that really took a prominent shape when pandemic hit us, because that became a very important module for us to really do these surveys and pulse checks with our employees, right? And analyze that data and decipher the insights out of that. We realized that, and this was very, very surprising to me, that we realized that 60% of our workforce, right, who have taken loans in terms of emergency, right, they would have taken from an unorganized money lenders. And the reason it was very, very big surprise for us, because for each and every employee, right, by design, we provide them a corporate salary account. It's as per the process itself, right? And but even after that, 60% of our workforce were relying on an unorganized money lender, right? So that was something which was data point was very important for us. We used to hear these kind of things anecdotally, but I think when we looked at those kind of data and insights through our app, that's where it took us by surprise. We went into more details into that. I think during pandemic, when it started, we really went after calling our employees, checking on them and understanding, what is going on in their life, where are they struggling, how are they arranging for money. As a company, we took a bunch of measures, wherein we provided them, certain cover from COVID side and whatnot. But when we started talking to people, we realized that though they have a salary account access, but they struggle with arranging like basic documents like bank statement, for example, right? Arranging for an address proof. A lot of our people are migrants, right? So they would be moving into a new place, and it becomes a challenge for them. Doing net banking at a comfort level where we would be, it's very different scenario for them, right? So when we understood all of this thing, right, we realized that though we feel that they have a banking access, but actually they are probably they're not aware of the benefits which are coming from that banking access, or maybe they are not eligible for it, right? And those kind of insights, both from data point of view, anecdotally, as well as when we did these employee surveys, immersions, and we talked to them, we realized that we need to look at the fintech companies who are particularly catering to the next billion users in India, right? And we need to talk to them and say that, okay, how can we bring together and provide financial education awareness to our employees, right? And that's where earned wage access also came into the picture, right? And yeah, I think it just very well with what we are trying to do, and that is the reason why we decided that we would want to provide this as one of the things to our employees as part of the engagement and benefits module.
Yeah, that sounds great, and I think having an internal app and taking those surveys, I think really helped probably identify the core of the challenge itself. So moving on to Aditya, I know you tried to do earned wage access yourself as well before the concept actually came in, especially in SME industry. So same question to you, and also like your experience and your thoughts on this particular piece.
So I would say most companies are trying to give out outrageous financial benefits, which is even more reflected in the tech sector. You must have heard of companies giving sports bikes, four-wheelers, or even housing in some cases in terms of benefits, just to retain and onboard good talent. But real investment is in EWA, and I'll tell you why. In order to maintain that high and shiny lifestyle that these companies are trying to promote and visualize for their employees, you still need financial flexibility, but that still doesn't answer the entire question. And this is why EWA is one of the options that I really wanted to pursue. It replaces this rigidity with flexibility that I'm talking about, and in turn increasing employee trust with the company itself, thus decreasing attrition. So it's a multi-fold impact in your company. So it doesn't impact in just one way, it impacts you in several aspects. And in terms of my personal experience, Esotec, oh my God. So Esotec, we used to give out huge advances to employees just to retain them. And from employees' view as well, especially if you're blue collar, you would want to increase your standard of living. But the only way you can do that is that you can either be financially liquid and stop living paycheck to paycheck. And from the organization's point of view, I would say financial wellness is a duty to train your employees at ensuring that they're living stress-free financially.
Very true, very true. And yeah, I think when you have so many people coming and asking for salary advances from the organization, that means that way more number of people are actually going in the market to take that. It's only a handful of percentage of people who are actually coming to the employer, because most of the people are very shy to go to their employers. And what do you mean by an emergency, right? Maybe a family member who's unwell constitutes as an emergency, but it's my mom's birthday, I want to buy her an iPhone, that does not count as an emergency, but I still need to spend on that, and I'm not going to wait till the start of the month if her birthday is on 30th. So that also kind of adds to a lot of financial additions or inclusions in people in terms of the spends which they are doing. So before I jump on to the next question, I think in the Q&A section, Mr. Nikhil Taneja has mentioned that there's some problem in voice. So is that the problem with everyone, or if you can just mention in the Q&A if you're facing a problem in the volume, and if it's with one of the panelists or it's with all three of us, if you could just let me know, we'll know whether it's internet on our side or on your side. So that'll be really helpful. So now it's sorted. Thanks. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. So moving on to Ajay. So Aditya mentioned that they tried to do this in-house. There were a lot of employees who were coming and asking for these early advances. What do you think are the pros and cons of running early wage access in-house versus outsourcing to a professional partner? Because I've seen a lot of large companies today trying to do this themselves. They have like an exception case mechanism that people can go to the managers, they can ask for that exception, and then accordingly the companies can provide that. So what according to you are the pros and cons of doing this in-house versus outsourcing it?
Yeah, Smriti. I think, see, I mean, this is just my opinion. I think if it is a very, very small company with few employees, and it's a company can run it that way, then maybe they can do it in-house. But as soon as maybe you cross like 50 employees or 100 employees, it will become a very difficult thing for us, right? And honestly, for us, I think we are able to do a lot of things very, very well because that's our core business. But this is something that we definitely would not really think about doing it by ourselves, right? So I guess at the end of the day, it depends upon the company, the industry, and their business line, right? But for us, it is not our core business, and that's where we also didn't want to do it by ourselves, because there are so many good companies, startups, like for example, Advantage Club, who are trying to do the same, and I'm sure that they can do it in much better way than what others can do with not an expertise, right? If you look at this, the earned wage access program or any lending piece, right? See, there are a lot of moving elements in that, right? There is a whole application collection process. Then you need to collect the documentation. Somebody needs to run a risk engine on that. Underwriting, you need to partner with banks, maybe NBFCs, if required. All of that. I think this is something which is can be much better managed by a professional company, by a startup or a company who's specialized in this, rather than doing it in house. I would say, so that's how my take on this one is. But I think at the end of the day, look at the company level, right? It's a responsibility of an employer to to let employees know that they are providing it as a benefit, they are facilitating it as a benefit. But at the end of the day, it is an employee responsibility to take these things in a very serious manner, in a responsible manner, right? And be sensible about taking any kind of credit, right? Just because it is a company is facilitating it to their employees through some other companies, at the end of the day, it is their responsibility. So I think that is something which is very crucial. I think one of the pros of partnering with a company which does earn wage access would be that then we as a company, we will be able to get much better rates, not just processes, but much better benefits, because somebody else will be doing it at a much larger scale than you, right? So I think that's how I would say. I would probably say that if you are, if your employee strength is probably more than 50 or 100, it is much better to partner with a specialist than try to do it by yourself.
Got it. And Aditya, your thoughts on the same? You've done both sides of the spectrum, so would love to hear your thoughts and pros and cons.
So Ajay talked more about outsourcing it, so I'll talk about the in-house aspect of it. So the first thing that comes to my mind, actually two things. It's digital infra and manpower. So as an entrepreneur, I can sideline these two things, and I can think I'll automate the entire process. Not possible in an SME industry. So, and again, this industry of EWA and even R&R, it's still nurturing. And so there isn't any option to get good manpower to manage your system. And for most businesses, this is not their core work. And so how outsourcing makes more sense in this case. And so as an entrepreneur, you have a 100-year goal, you have a 50-year goal, and as well as a 5-year goal, right? So outsourcing things that are not in your core department just helps you reach your 5-year goal much, much faster and with less hassle. And this is especially applicable for small and medium-sized enterprises who don't have that much capital, who don't have that much resources. And this was especially, I would say, this came into play in 2020, where traditional businesses just went up in flames.
True. There's also a question on the chat, which I can answer, but I'd rather have any of you answer that because that's company specific. How can we make sure that the company does not get into any legal trouble?
I can take that. Yeah, so it is, look, I think the answer is, that's what Aditya was also saying, right? I mean, if you decide to do it in-house, then you'll have to look at a lot of compliance which comes in with it, right? Not just compliance, but the entire process flow and things like that, right? Whereas if you do it with a partner, then essentially that partner, is a company which is anyways, taking care of all the compliances and legal regularities around that. So that's why you partner with the right company to make sure that you don't have to go through any legal troubles for that, right? There are labor compliance laws are there, and that's the reason why it's always a good idea to partner with a company who does this in and out, and they are much better to manage the legal and compliance compared to your own company.
Great. So moving on to the next question, to Ajay, that how uh, how is it helpful if a company provides this as a benefit compared to an employee going to the market for a loan? There's of course a psychological safety associated with a company providing the benefit that I can access my wages at any point. How can also this help in employees managing their finances better and maybe get out of like bad debt cycles, which usually come out with like credit cards and these B2C companies? Your 2 cents in that.
Yeah, definitely. I think as I mentioned earlier, right? I mean, when we from these surveys, we realized that so many of our workforce are exposed to unorganized sector, right? As a company, I think generally employees place a lot of trust on their employer, right? So companies, the employer need to make sure that it is the earned wage access program, if they are doing it, in whatever shape and form, it is basically done in a right way with right amount of vetting of various partners, right? So that is point number one. The second point is that whether you provide it or not, whether you facilitate it or not, your employees are anyways out in the market, looking for loans or other kind of products in terms of emergency, right? So I'm sure that if companies decide to do it as a program in which they are partnering with right companies and they are running it as a due diligent process, then they will be able to bring verified players who are designed to be compliant, and they are well established, they are backed by marquee investors. And then what they are doing is that they are facilitating that to their employees, so that the employees, rather than going out right in the market and falling prey to different scams and whatnot, what happens, at least they can consider this as another avenue, as another option to be availed through the company or via the company.
Right. Very true. And Aditya, your 2 cents in that. And I just modify this question a little bit for you to also maybe add about what is the maybe financial responsibility of an organization towards an employee as well, to add on to this particular point.
Sure, Smriti. So, first of all, I would like to point out that most people think that the dynamic relationship between an employer and an employee is of power. It's actually not. It's symbiotic. It's collaborative. So, as an employer, what should be the ideal mindset for the employee? Is it towards the solving the problem of the employee or of the employer? So I believe that if you solve the problem of the employee, they will in turn solve the problems faced by your organization. And you also said something about the psychological safety, right? So I would say psychological safety is directly linked with fear. Fear of not being able to afford your rent and getting kicked out, fear of not to be able to afford the medical expenses of your family members or your loved ones. So those are real nightmares that will like not make you go to bed at night. It'll make you stay up all night. So these kind of fears are removed from the employee's mind as the worst case scenario when we implement EWA.
Very, very, absolutely true. And so moving on to Ajay again, uh, overall, how does early wage access also get linked with retention? Does actually providing a financial wellness add to retention, or is it something which just helps in financial wellness for employees? And how has Quest Corp as an organization benefited from the program? It's been just some time since you've launched it, but have you seen any changes in retention or employee engagement or overall engagement pulse in general?
Yeah, Smriti. So we have taken a very comprehensive view on this, right? So when we talk about employee benefits, we talk about how it helps us attract the employees to come and choose Quest as their company, right? How it helps us build the engagement with our company, with our HRs, with our managers, and how does it help us retain our employees, right? And since we are into this business, I think all of the three things are very, very important for us, right? We have implemented the program now a few months back. So too early to say that, statistical evidence is there. But what we have seen is, two, three things which have been, coming out as very positive for us. The first one is that this program has actually received a lot of interest among employees, right? So a lot of employees are signing up for this. They are quite interested in this, right? They want to understand how it works and how to avail this and whatnot, right? So I think that tells that it has been a good success so far, right? Second is we have a very solid mechanism of measuring the employee engagement. So we do these, as I mentioned, on our workforce management app. We do these pulse checks and surveys, and like as a standard, and this has been like running for years now. So we can very well look at all the trends. And one thing that we saw generally during the pandemic time, just I guess once the first lockdown became open, got lifted. While the productivity might be going down, what we saw very quickly is that our employee engagement actually went up, and it went up by 1.5x on that metrics, right? And it is because of such programs, right, that we have been running. So other than earned wage access program, I would say that we are taking a very comprehensive view on this, and earned wage access is a component of that, and that has given us two things, right? Two early indicators. One is that a lot of our workforce is interested in this and they are availing it, and second is that we are seeing from our
Is it network issue on my end or? Um,
Hi, Smriti, I think. Can you guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you
I don't
now.
know.
Yes. I think it's frozen. Ajay's screen is frozen. Probably some internet issue.
I think, Smriti, from my end, the network is bit.
Yeah, we can hear you now though. Is it better? Can you hear us? No, I think there's some.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. So, same question towards Aditya as well. Uh, Again, modifying it a little bit, like Ajay talked about employee engagement going up because of such initiatives, and you're clubbing employee engagement with early wage access as products. How do you club other things? Like, how do you club rewards with something like early wage access? And again, same question around have you seen any trends or do you feel that in any way engagement can go up if such financial wellness initiatives are implemented?
All right. So I'll answer your first question. If early wage and let's say any other rewards should be combined, I think EWA should always come under rewards because it's part and parcel of the benefits program itself. And the only questions that you have to ask as an entrepreneur is that around the policy questions, like should this privilege be given to interns or people on probation? Should this be linked with severance packages? Maybe. So such questions needed to be answered before formulating any policy. And this is just one aspect of it. And the other aspect is how about a cherry on top of a sundae, like that. So what about non-emergency early access? So let's say if I'm a good performer, I'm working in a company and I've gotten performance rewards over time. What more can I get? So you can add EW as a privilege on top of that here. So people say, oh, I'm happy because of the performance rewards. You're not happy with anything. That's the reality. So post-COVID, I would say a lot of SMEs, for a lot of SMEs, salaries came 2 and 3 months later, and which was a disaster for people who live from paycheck to paycheck. So here, EWA is actually beneficial for the employer themselves, because it hedges the risk of employees absconding. So that is one of the huge plus factors here. It's actually the silver lining here,
Very
especially
true.
in blue collar setups. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So there's also a question on the chat. Again, I'll let either of you answer that because it's more corporate specific. How is the taxation part of employee affected from this facility, from the third party? And how do you handle Form 16 for such employees?
I think I'll take this one, if that's fine, Ajay.
Please go ahead.
So I just, the question, let me just, yeah.
Oh, it goes under answered.
Yeah, I got it. Yes. Yeah. So in terms of taxation, there's only 3 to 4 things that you have to look at. So it's ESI, PF, TDS. So I would say it's the same. So if an employee has a salary, a CTC of 30K, and he gets, let's say he has access to his early wages of, let's say, 60% or 50%, let's say it's come down to 15,000, then you still have to pay your taxes, employee taxes on the CTC itself. So it doesn't affect anything. And there's no overhead taxing. I think that's my take. Smriti, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And would you like to add something to that, Ajay, as well?
No, I think, Aditya answered it well. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So moving on to, overall, my last question around closing points. So just would love to hear closing points from both of you, Ajay, Aditya, around, let's also talk about how do you conceptualize it? How do you maybe execute it? And overall, any thoughts which you have for the panelists and the attendees out here?
Aditya, please go first.
I'll go first. No issues.
Closing remarks.
So I would like to conclude by saying that this is still the early stages of development in this entire industry. And I'll just talk about real estate here. So this was a much needed development that we required from, I would say, a decade. We needed this almost a decade ago. And there were a few options. So there are a few options. There are some international companies as well who are providing this service in India. But again, overhead costs and everything, just when you account into it, it's just not suitable for an SME living in India, working in India. So a product such as advantage clubs, it really changes the entire game of how we interact with the workforce and how the workforce handles their finances.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for that, and also for the kind words. Ajay, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, I think what I understand is that while seems like a new concept in India, but it is quite prominent in the Western countries, right? So it seems like generally the payroll or the world is moving towards maybe a 15 days wage or a 7 days wage or something like that, right? So it's a good thing that it is happening in India, and there are companies which are trying to do it in a very structured manner. I think my advice would be, or at least from our experience, right? It's really important to find right partner, structure it in a good way, run it as a process. Make sure that before you do it, you do some kind of survey, talk to few of your employees, understand the challenges that they are facing through. So that what you're able to do is that with the right partner, you are able to structure the program in the right way, right? There are, I mean, it's not a cookie cutter solution, what I believe, Smithy, right? So the right partner will help you structure the program in a right way so that, your employees are getting the maximum benefit out of it, right? So run it as a process, right? Take the feedback at various intervals. Try to take the feedback almost every 15 days or month from employees who are availing this and seeing how it is benefited from them. Use, maybe sometimes those employees can share their experience with other employees, right? Considering that we are living in a world in which a lot of things are happening over the Zoom call, maybe your company may need to organize such a session for all the workforce, right? So that they get to hear not just from you, but also with one of their colleagues, or a couple of their colleagues, that how they get benefited from the earned wage access program. So that's my take on it. I think it's a very good development in the system, and let's hope that it brings like a lot of positive enthusiasm and energy to the workforce. And as we are coming out of pandemic, I hope this becomes a cornerstone of employee benefits and engagement.
Thank you so much, Ajay, for those wise words. And with that note, we'll also kind of end the session. Thank you so much, Ajay and Aditya, for coming. For the attendees, we will be, this entire session is recorded, so we will be sharing the recording with you post the session as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Aditya. It was a pleasure interacting with you, like always.
Thank you, Smriti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Smriti. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.